We're on chapter 12 of My Yellow Brick Road to My Happily Ever After. So if you have not caught up, if you're reading it along by yourself, then please catch up. You don't want to listen or read along unless you've gotten already to this chapter. So we're on chapter 12, Building a Path Through Friendship, Faith, and Love. In November of 1999, Kendall gave me wonderful news. We have orders back to Camp Pendleton. I have to report in February of 2000, he said. Yay! I was so excited. I would miss the friends we had made, but I was going home. A California girl for life. We immediately started getting ready for our military move. We asked Sherry to dog sit Bear while we flew to California for our 10-day look-see. It's an authorized trip that active duty personnel get to go look for housing in the new duty area. We were going to sell that Georgia house and try to buy something in California. During our trip, we realized that we would only be able to afford a condo near Camp Pendleton, not a house. But that's okay. That's what you do. You purchase a home, live in it, love it, then you build equity as the market increases, you sell it, and then you take that house, live in it, fix it up, love it, and then when the market increases, you have equity, sell that and move up and move up. You don't just go out and think you're going to buy a mansion off the bat. You live, you love it, build it up. That's what we did. We found the Nortons, Kim and Conrad, by picking up a flyer in the base housing office. He was a realtor and she did the mortgage financing. They toured us around the condos and townhomes that we could afford. No way. Bad areas or deteriorating units were the only selections. I don't mind buying a house that needs fixing up, but make sure the location is good and make sure the foundation of the house is good. We decided to rent an apartment and put our things in storage. In February of 2000, Kendall, Bear, and I drove from Powder Springs, Georgia to Oceanside, California. My family was excited that we had returned back to California as well. Conrad and Kim continued to look for a condo for us while we stayed in an apartment near the base. After a couple of months, we bought a cute 3-bedroom condo in Oceanside near the Mission San Luis Rey. It was a spacious unit upstairs. We loved the condo and being back in Cali. The ocean breeze, the sunny days made you smile. Kendall had settled in on base, but was required to go to China Lake for a week. I had found a job in Irvine for a medical insurance company as a claims processor, so I was busy commuting 53 miles each way, 5 days a week. I was getting back my Cali girl status, which meant ditching the state of Georgia driver's license. I called the DMV and was told that if I went to DMV within the month, I would get my old driver's license number back. I was so excited because I still remembered that number. I planned on going the following day. In the morning, I dressed in my cute blue outfit, a blue blouse, blue wrap skirt, and a blue chiffon scarf around my neck. Adorable. I smiled in the mirror, practicing my DMV smile. You know the one. I hope you all smile in your DMV picture. You have to have it for 4 years or longer, so make sure you smile. Makes a difference. I always smile in my DMV pictures because the best picture is always better with a big smile, even your DMV picture. See, told you. I was headed out the door when I remembered I had not looked at the mail I brought in the night before. I flipped through it and saw an envelope that was addressed to Kendall from the Georgia Child Support Office. That was weird. Why is it from Georgia and Kendall's kids are in Indiana? Must be important, I thought. So I called Kendall. Hi, baby. A letter came for you from Georgia Child Support. What is it? I asked him. He said, hi. They were going to transfer the child support from Indiana to Georgia. We don't need it now, so you could throw it out. Okay, I said. Love you. Love you too. Talk to you later, he said. And we hung up. I always tear mail in half or in shreds before disposing it so that no one can use credit card apps or view my personal mail. I tore the letter in half and tossed it in the trash. I was running late for work, but one piece of the envelope flipped past the trash can. I walked over and bent to pick it up. When I bent down, the half of the letter that flipped out said a name that I was familiar with, but confused as to why it would be included in the child support letter. The woman whose name was on the letter lived in Georgia. She was not a friend. She was the pregnant woman who had been following me around the reserve base in her car, and when I stopped at the PX. I didn't know why. I was really confused. I pulled the other half of the letter out of the trash and put the pieces together. Oh my God. The child support letter had nothing at all to do with the stepchildren that I knew. The letter was addressing child support for 2 children whose parents were indicated as Kendall and the woman from Georgia. Oh my God. I felt like I was in some awful soap opera. I was shocked, confused, and her past actions were starting to make sense. She had been following me and most likely contemplating telling me about her, Kendall, and the babies, who were twins. Little did she know, I would have preferred that she told me what was on her mind. I would have listened. I was not like most women. I would not have wanted to fight. I would have wanted to know. Oh, the emotions that I felt most strongly, anger and betrayal. I hate being lied to, and my husband knew that was a major problem for me. I could feel my temperature actually rising as I dialed the number to call Kendall back. Hello, he said. Kendall, did you just bold-faced lie to me? You had the chance to tell me what the hell was going on, but you lied. The letter has nothing to do with the transfer of child support. Oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. I have to go. I'm going to be late for work, I said while I was crying. I didn't let him say one word. I hung up. As I walked to the door, the phone rang. I walked out the door and let it ring. I cried for 53 miles. I made it to work, but I could not function. The man that I adored had been unfaithful. Wait, my brain said. How old were the kids? Don't do anything drastic until you know whether it happened before the wedding day or after. It would help me to decide to stay or go. I tried to work for 30 minutes. After arriving, I was still unable to stop crying. One of my coworkers asked me to step outside with her. Pat was very sweet. She said, I don't know what's going on, and I'm sure you don't want to go into detail. But if it has to do with you and your husband, I can give you some advice that will work for every situation. Wait until you have calmed down before you talk to him again. Get all of the details before you make any decisions. The most important thing is to remember that you loved him enough to say, I do, and you promised to stay together through the good times and the bad times. I told her thank you. It did help me to calm down so that I could get through my workday. I was still very angry at the end of the day, but I had to go to DMV. I took my written test and passed. I moved on to have my picture taken. I was standing with my feet on the white line with the plain backdrop behind me. I waited for the DMV rep to take the picture. And he said, oh no, miss, I can't take a picture of you frowning so. Yes, I was going against my DMV picture rule. Smile no matter what. I was mad, and I wanted the picture to always remind me of how mad I was that day. He smiled. Let's see a smile. I stood there like, man, take the damn picture. He laughed and said, I will wait until you smile. He got me. I had to laugh at myself and smile for the man. Now that's what I call a beautiful smile. He took the picture. It was actually the best DMV picture I ever took. DMV let me renew with that picture for 6 years. They must have liked it too. I drove home. Kendall called me a few minutes after I arrived, and he said, "I'm sorry. I should have told you." I said, "Wait. Before you say anything else, how old are they? When were they born? Did you do this after we were married?" I rattled off a bunch of questions before he had a chance to answer the first one. 3 years old. They were born in May of '97. I got with her before we were married. It wasn't a relationship. It was one time after a party when you were working out of state. I could hear the regret in his voice. Why was I already feeling bad for his discomfort? I know, because I loved him with all of my heart. Even though I was hurting, I knew he was hurting. I want to hear it from someone else. Call the child support agency and let them confirm the date of the birth on file so I can hear it. I didn't want any more surprises or untruths. If I was going to stay married to Kendall, I wanted to know everything immediately. Kendall obviously cared about me because he hung up, called the agency, and then me, so that we were on a three-way call. The representative confirmed what Kendall had told me. The twins were born in May of 1997. We were married in June of 1997, so it was obvious he told me the truth. I waited for the representative to hang up before I said, "Okay, we need to talk when you get back home. Don't call me, just wait until you come home." It was a major pothole in my yellow brick road. 2 days later, when his assignment at China Lake was over, Kendall came home. After his talking and my crying, I knew from listening to my mom that if I wanted to stay married and heal past this problem, I would have to forgive him. You never have to forget a situation, but forgiving is a must, she said. I was mostly hurt that he had not felt that he could trust me to handle the situation with him. He told me how difficult it was to keep it from me, but he did not want to hurt me. I explained to him that it is always going to be better to hear it from the one you love, than any other way. It's always better, people. I don't care what it is, how hard it is for you to tell it. I don't care. I don't care what it is. Think about it. Doesn't matter. It's going to hurt when that person hears it from you. No lie. But it's going to be a lot better than if they heard it from someone on the streets, a friend, a family member. They just accidentally come across something. It's going to hurt a lot more because you kept it from them. So always, don't think about it and say, should I tell him? Shouldn't I tell him? Tell him. I'm telling you now. I chose to forgive him. I told him that one day those children will want to see him and know him, and I supported that totally. I have a father that I do not know, and it doesn't have to be that way. And let me correct something. It's not that I don't know him at all. It's that I know of him, but we don't know each other. I met him once when I was 20-something. He had come to visit a couple times when I was younger. When I was little, I remember, like when I was 5 or so. But after that, he moved. I guess he had already had a family. He was married, he had kids. And I don't know if the wife knew about me or didn't know, and he didn't want to bring it up. But I happened before his kids, so it shouldn't have been an issue. But in this case, he chose not to tell, right? So me growing up all those years not knowing my dad made a big difference. So when I was 21, I contacted him and asked him to meet me, and he met across the street from my job in Oakland, actually. And it was hilarious because the whole time he just kept saying, "Wow, you look just like your mom. Wow, you smile like your mom. Wow, you even hold your head like your mom." I was like, okay, fine. I know when she was 21 and pictures of me when I was 21, we look a lot alike. But guess what, dude? You're supposed to be here to talk to me. So believe me, people, if you have children out there that you don't know or that you've kept out of your life, they want to know you. They don't want money. They just want to know who you are and know about you and that side of their lives. So if your man happens to have kids, let them in his life. Don't play that game of keeping them out. They'll actually fortify your life. I love all my stepchildren. They're so wonderful. They're different personalities, and they've done things to help me and be supportive to me as well. So it's a two-way street. How do you patch a pothole in your yellow brick road? With forgiveness and love. That's how. Stones of unconditional love, faith, and support were laid on my path by strengthening our journey. Our lives were so busy that I actually could forget about our argument. Kendall was busy working, which included deploying every 12 to 18 months. That's the life of a Marine wife. Any military wife knows. Whether you're in the Marines, Army, Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard, there are going to be deployments, reserves, and you just deal with it. You handle whatever needs to be handled at home. You keep working if you're working. If you're a stay-at-home mom, you've got tons of things to do already, taking care of the kids, getting them to work and whatever. So definitely you have to be a part of your spouse's military life. And that's for men who are the husbands of wives who are in the military. You step up and help out. His mom had planned a trip to see us in Oceanside prior to finding out that Kendall would be deployed. She was a little bummed out that he would not be home, but I told her to come anyway. I would show her around and do some shopping. I hoped it would be our opportunity to get to know each other and for me to get to know my mother-in-law better, and for us to build our own relationship as friends. It was a marvelous visit. My mother-in-law and I shared stories about our lives, which helped me learn that she and her parents raised Kendall and his sister Kim. Kendall made occasional visits to his father's house, but he was raised with his mom. I knew she had retired, but I did not know that it was her only job, which I thought was awesome. I told her I had a new job every 2 to 3 years. She chuckled and said, "That might have been fun learning different things." "Exactly," I said. "I enjoy meeting people and learning new things, so I have been blessed to have so many different life changes. The only job I regretted leaving was the one I had when Kendall and I left California. It was my first union job, and they paid great. Employees rarely left the motion picture industry pension and health plan," I said. "Oh, yes, union jobs do pay good wages," she said. I knew mothers of Marines worried that their sons would get hooked up with a female who just wanted their guy for his military check. I hoped as my mother-in-law got to know me, she would understand that I was not that type of female. I was an independent, hard-working, intelligent woman and able to make good money on my own, but I happened to fall in love with her son. During her stay, we decided to take a trip down to Tijuana. Everyone I took to TJ loved it, and I wanted to share that experience with my mother-in-law. We drove down and parked on the California side of San Jacinto. We knew we would be walking, so we both wore our walking shoes. We laughed at a lot of things we saw for sale and people we saw. It was fun to laugh and see the people lugging tons of stuff back across the border. "Don't laugh," I said, giggling. "That will probably be us in a couple of hours." It was. She loved Tijuana. Kendall and I always go to a little plaza right off of Avenida Revolucion. So that was our destination. We got to the plaza and realized we needed to go to the bank. So we walked all the way back to the California side to an ATM, then all the way back to the plaza in TJ. We were getting our exercise for sure. She bought little statuettes of cactus and a man sitting with a sombrero hiding his face as he took a little siesta. She bought a blanket and ceramic numbers for her address, for her street address. Since we were walking, we could not take too much stuff. By the time we headed back to the border crossing, my mother and I were laughing hysterically because we looked like the people that we laughed about earlier. My blanket and her blanket, plus bags under our arms and in our hands, were being dragged inch by inch in the long line as we were waiting to have our United States citizenship checked in order to get back to California. We had a blast. By the time she was ready to fly home, she and I had bonded as friends, daughter-in-law and mother-in-law, as well as shopping buddies. I boxed up some of her things to mail to her, and the rest she put in her luggage. Although we missed hanging out with Kendall, we enjoyed each other's company. By letting me be me and patiently allowing my mother-in-law to cautiously get to know me as I got to know her, we were able to bond. Too many daughters-in-law forget that the nature of a mother is to protect her young, even when her young is a grown-ass man. He will always be her baby. Remember that. You have to remember that. When I first met her, remember that trip out, from California? We stopped in Indiana before going to Georgia. I was so nervous and all paranoid that she didn't like me. It was her taking her time to get to know me. This is her son. This is the child that she carried for 9 months and raised. And yes, he was grown, but sometimes people do take advantage. And you hear horrible stories about some guy falling for some woman and all she wanted was his money and he ends up getting killed and, just craziness. So out there, ladies, men, just remember the in-laws are just trying to get to know you and see if you are a good fit for their loved one. Okay? Some are crazy, but most are just out there trying to make sure you're not crazy and you have love on your mind, not something else. The horror stories of women seducing a man who becomes blind to her bad behavior or using him for his money are a mother's worst nightmare. Don't you? I wanted her to see for herself that I was genuinely in love with Kendall and our marriage was a bond, a loving bond. It was a special turning point in my relationship with my mother-in-law, and I know it made Kendall feel good too. There were stones of love, friendship, spirituality, and caring placed on my path because of my relationship with my mother-in-law. His mom's visit filled some of my free time while Kendall was deployed. I also worked and visited my family a lot during the 4 months that Kendall was deployed. As always, I provided Kendall the motivation he needed to hang in there on that confined ship with tight bunks and narrow spaces. You don't have long to go, I would say, even when it was the first week. On their return home, the ship was scheduled to stay at port in Hawaii, so I planned and booked a trip to Hawaii to join Kendall. It was my first trip to plan on my own, booking the airline, booking the hotels, any of the tours without a travel agent, and it was so inexpensive. So believe me, you'll hear about more trips I plan. Always do it yourself. Now that there's internet, you save so much money doing it yourself. We had a ball in Waikiki. From going to the beach and snorkeling in Hanauma Bay to touring the historic site at Pearl Harbor, which was so touching, so emotional. If you get to Hawaii, go to Pearl Harbor. After 5 days, it was time for me to fly home and Kendall to get back on ship. So we said goodbyes, and I knew we would see each other in a few days. Kendall knew when I returned home to Oceanside that I would get my medical visit scheduled to have my uterine artery ablation done at Balboa. It was a procedure to slow the blood flow from the major arteries located at my pelvic area to my uterus. It was a new procedure used to cause fibroid tumors in the uterus to shrink due to lack of blood flow. I was advised that after the procedure, I would have a damaged uterus, so they say, and getting pregnant may take years. I was nervous and scared, but the benefits outweighed my worry. I put my faith in God and knew everything would work out. So this procedure is really good because fibroids are just like benign tumors. They're not cancerous, but they grow in a woman's uterus or on the ovaries, things like that. And of course, they feed off of the nutrients in your body through your blood flow. So what the physicians and researchers thought was if you cut that blood flow off to them, then they can't continue to grow, right? So that's why I went on and did it, because I didn't want to have surgery. I wasn't ready for a hysterectomy because I wanted at least one baby of my own. So the procedure was a must. In 2011, 10 days after I saw Kendall in Hawaii, he was back in Oceanside and driving me to Balboa Hospital. I am glad this is outpatient, I said. Yeah, me too, Kendall added. and rubbed my leg for support. We parked, and I took my little bag with my change of clothes with me into the hospital. They recommended that I have a loose-fitting pair of lounge pants or sweats. The staff in the outpatient surgery department was very helpful and reassuring that it would be a swift procedure, and as soon as the anesthesia wore off, I would be released. Kendall kissed me and went into the waiting room. A few minutes later, Kendall was smiling at me and asking me how I was feeling. "You look like you are still sleepy," he said. "I am groggy. Is the anesthesia taking effect?" "Did they tell you how much longer before I go in?" I asked him. Kendall laughed. "You are done. You've been in the recovery room and they just woke you up." I smiled. "Good. I am ready to go home." The nurse gave me some pain medicine and told Kendall what needed to be done. Then they wheeled me outside while Kendall drove the 4Runner up to the hospital patient pickup zone. It was a success. After 9 months of monitoring the size of my largest fibroid, the doctor saw a noticeable decrease in size. From the size of a navel orange, yes, that's how big some of the tumors were, to the size of a grape. 6 months later, I was pregnant. What? Yes, pregnant. Kendall and I were surprised to be pregnant only 15 months after the doctors told us it would take years. I laughed a lot because I knew the power of God, and no matter what man says, God does what God does when God wants to do it. Funny and blessed was all I kept saying. We were excited to be expecting our child. I had 5 children already. Yes, they were my stepchildren, and yes, I included the twins in my count. It was not the children's fault about how they were conceived, and I was not mad at their mother because what happened at a different time in our lives. So I would be 39 years old in February of 2003 when I had a child of my own with the love of my life, Kendall. I couldn't stop smiling. Maternity was exciting. I ate fruit and vegetables like crazy. I walked regularly to keep my weight where the doctors wanted it. Kendall and I went to the sonogram appointment to learn the sex of the baby. I didn't want to know. I preferred to keep my little present for 9 months and be surprised when it was revealed at delivery. The doctor told Kendall the sex of the baby, and I told him not to tell a soul because I did not want that person to come back and tell me. I knew I could trust him. By December of 2002, I was 7 months along in the pregnancy, and Kendall had to go to Okinawa. We knew that he would not be home for my delivery in February 2003, but my mom was only an hour-and-a-half drive from the Naval Hospital at Camp Pendleton. I made sure Kendall talked to my stomach. The first time he looked at me with a raised eyebrow, and I said, "The baby will know your voice." So he obliged regularly. I was not worried about him. It was the life of the wife of a Marine whose job it was to protect our country. I had heard the stories of wives with 3 or more kids, and they were conceived while hubby was home and delivered while hubby was deployed. Yes, all of them. I saw so many women on every base we'd ever been on with stair-step kids, and they would always tell the story. "Oh yeah, this one was conceived when he came home, and then I had the baby when he was deployed, and then when he came home, we're so excited to see each other, we conceived another," so on and so on. Hilarious. Our so-called military marriage motto, you know the one, if the insert branch here, military, Marines, Army. If the Marines wanted you to have a wife, they would have issued you one. Ha ha, so funny. Actually, I thought it was hilarious the first time I heard it. Anyway, I was ready to have a baby while Kendall was gone. Kendall left for Okinawa during the 2nd week of December. I was no longer commuting to Irvine to work. I worked as a medical claims processor for an IPA in Oceanside, so my commute was 10 minutes. Loved it. I boxed up Kendall's Christmas gifts and mailed them out a couple of days after he left, so that he would have them just before or just after Christmas. Unfortunately, none of us could have foreseen the start of the Iraq invasion. 2 weeks after getting to Okinawa, Kendall's unit was called back to Camp Pendleton. I was worried about him going to Iraq. He would be on ship for the trip to the Middle East, but they would be stationed on land at some point. Kendall arrived home on December the 27th. He was always upbeat about deployment and never showed that he was worried or concerned. That you will always see most of the time with your men in military or your women in military, that they're so strong and they protect the family by not getting you worried or stressed because they would be worried or stressed. They stay strong. He's like, no big deal. It's just like any other deployment. This was, after 9/11 and what happened at 9/11 and them searching and trying to find the terrorists and ending up in Iraq and starting the Iraq war. So it was a frightening time, but I didn't mention it if he didn't mention it. I just told him, we would keep it in prayer. So just trying to stay strong. It's no big deal. We would be on ship for a while. Then once they set up base on land in Kuwait, we would be on land. Don't worry, it will probably be over fast. He wrapped me in a hug and kissed my forehead. Okay, I won't worry, I said, even though I was already worried. I said a prayer, asking God to watch over Kendall, help me stay positive, and deliver the baby with no problems. I was happy that I would have Kendall at home for a few weeks, since they would not be leaving until the second week of January. It was a good thing Kendall was still home in Oceanside on New Year's Eve of 2002. These are the pictures, the album pictures at the end of chapter 12. You'll see my driver's license picture. I'm telling you, that was cute with my little blue outfit, my little blue scarf I was telling you about. And there's all the girls from my job in Irvine, Gabby, still a dear friend. My girl Jana. Here's Jana. Rest in peace. She died of breast cancer. Well, breast cancer started it all. She died of a tumor in her brain. There's Kendall and I when we were in Hawaii. And in that little picture, if you go on the website and zoom it in, you can see his ship leaving. I took pictures of everything. I have probably 30 pictures of Hawaii. And there's us at the luau. Of course, they give you a cute girl for the guys and a handsome hump for the girls. But those are pictures from the album page for chapter 12. And you can see those on my website, www.caro, C-A-R-O, evansdreammaker.com. Oh, there's the bookmark. Yes, if you order it, you get the bookmark. And you can see the website. I don't know, can you see that? Is it backwards? That's weird. I think it's backwards for you, sorry. Okay, so chapter 13.